Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bite-Sized Panel Edition, where we take a quick but deep look at the human condition at home, at work, everywhere. I'm your host, show creator, animator, and MAPS business coach, Peter K. Weiner. And today we have a panel of two joining us who are here to discuss today's topic, which I will reveal shortly. First, I'd like to welcome actor, director, producer, and writer Larry Clarke. I've known Larry forever. Whether you've seen him on stage, television, or film, he exudes a confidence in all his performances. No pressure on Larry there. And let's also welcome once again, elite status MAPS business coach, construction expert, and business owner, Jake Clendenning. First, let's welcome to the stage, Larry.
All right.
And tell us a little bit about what you're working on now and a little bit about your background, if you don't mind.
Well, thanks for having me on, Peter.
You're welcome.
It's great to be on this. I love this podcast. It's not a podcast. It's a video cast. What is this?
Sure. Yes, we'll call it a video cast. I like that.
It's called a video cast. And I love how I love bite-sized. And I think it's very interesting that you've opened it up to the creative realm, because we are as far as the business world, or I should say connecting to people in the business world. I don't think they often come to us creatives. And I think we have something to say about at least as far as the creative process. But anyway, what I've been up to, I'm always up to a lot of things. I have a lot of balls in the air. So I'm writing scripts. I have a couple of screenplays that I'm playing around with. I'm shooting a crazy web series with my wife called Bitter Homes and Gardens, where we basically just scream at each other, and people seem to be entertained by that. We've been doing that for years, but we're doing season 2. So we are in the writing stage now, in the pre-production. In 2 weeks, we go up. So it's a little tense here in the house. Note sessions are rough. Those are hard notes, because I got to be like, honey, that's not funny. Okay, I'm sorry. It's the hard truth. I got to give it to you. This isn't funny. So if it's not funny, we don't shoot it. So that's happening. I'm teaching, and trying to stay sane in this crazy pandemic world.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, sanity is definitely something we've all been working on, and we kind of look at that a little bit from a different perspective today. We'll get into that in a minute. Jake, what's going on with you, man? We know Jake, but tell us something.
Tell us something. Yeah. So I'm excited. I'm excited to be here with Larry today. And I agree. I think opening business to the creative side keeps people in love with their business. We actually had a conversation with somebody about a week ago that we started the 3 stages of love. And one of them in business as it goes forward is that yearning stage, right? And that's that creative stage. That's the beginning when we're excited about business and this is awesome. And I want to pour everything into it and do everything that I can to do it. That's the creative part. That's when it happens. And I think bringing people like Larry back into it through all of the stages is very important, because it reminds them what they fell in love with in the first place. What brought you here? What's keeping you here? So that perspective is really important. Much like Larry, I've got tons of stuff going on. Peter knows that. Peter and I actually got to spend time in person, like not on a screen, last week. It was super exciting.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was great. He's a real person. Like there's a whole body and everything. It's super exciting. But we got to spend some time in Ogden, Utah last week together, and that was really great. Take a couple days and go and spend some time with some of the other coaches. And we got to do a rock climbing event, which was super cool. And I can't remember what the heck the name of the thing is called, but it's a great big system of ladder rungs that climb up the side of this mountain across from a waterfall. Super cool day.
Yeah, I learned something on that. I mean, there was definitely fear involved. We were all strapped in and everything, but I wanted to be ahead of the group because I didn't want to be instructed. I wanted to deal with my own problems. I wanted to deal with my own fears. I didn't want an expert saying, do this, do that, do that. I thought it was really interesting. The fear factor was higher, but the accomplishment factor was higher. So today's snippet is entitled True Voice. In it, we explore how to identify that inner saboteur that often gets in the way of our success. Let's take a look at this clip and see what happens. Let's roll it. People joke about that little voice in their heads, but it's no joke. That voice is real. And whether you call it your drunk monkey, your inner critic, or your gremlin, the bottom line is that voice is giving you a very clear message that you're not good enough. Oh, and by the way, that voice is wrong. Ask yourself this: when has your fear and self-criticism ever helped you succeed? Does it really snap you into any kind of shape or make you a better person? The truth is, when you tell yourself you can't, aren't ready, or don't know how, all you're doing is blocking your own path to success. This insidious inner voice might act like your friend, your protector, your better judgment, but don't be fooled. That voice was born out of the subconscious fear that even if you try, you still might fail anyway. Its job? To make you quit before you really try. There are plenty of external forces that stand in our way. Funny how we don't give in to those so easily. So, how do we put on our combat gear and battle that inner voice? Well, the first step, recognizing it. Usually it's pretty exciting when taking on a new project. Let's say you've decided to write a book. You know what you want to write about, you've blocked out the time, and you found the perfect writing spot. So here you go. You're in the flow, cranking out the paragraphs, making it happen, and then you hit your first snag. Something disrupts your thought process and your focus changes. You stop writing. You begin to think about the odds of success, your lack of experience. Suddenly, you become critical of your own work. Maybe you should just backtrack and change it. Better yet, start over again. Whoa! What the heck just happened? I'll tell you what happened. You just got served by your gremlin, your inner critic, your drunk monkey. You know what you do? You grab that little demon and you take a good hard look at him. Are you really going to let this little beast ruin your plan? Of course not. Talk to it and let it know who's boss. Do you think Shakespeare, Poe, or Hemingway let their gremlin stop them? Well, maybe Poe, but you get the point. Next, give it a name and a face, so the next time it shows up, you can tell the difference between it and you. It's important to be realistic when executing a plan, but that doesn't mean you need to succumb to all the negative chatter that gets in your way. Listen to the voice that points to success and speaks solutions. That's your true voice. That was my biggest acting in that one. Okay. Let's open up and dive a little deeper into this. Larry, what was your key takeaway?
I really like your animation. I really think it's great. I just, it's a real, I don't know how long it takes you, but it is so well done that, and I just love how it supports the ideas at the same time. And I like how you've approached this. And it's, of course, it's an oversimplification of a huge problem, our inner voice that are self-sabotaging, which is, and I love how you simplify it because you can get caught up in a lot of different, aspects of it. But what I thought that was most interesting about it was that you have to, and what you didn't say was, you got to grab that gremlin, and then you've got to look at it because you can't deny that it's there. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck because they're thinking, oh, this is bad. And I have found in the creative process that just starts a cycle of self-sabotage, that the best way to stop this kind of negative thought process is to accept that it's there and to kind of accept the voice and be very kind to it, or else you can get into some negative stuff, man. You can flip back to those old days in life where, a teacher saying you're not enough, you're not going to achieve, you're not going to climb up that hill, you're not going to make the team. All that stuff that kicks in from the past can come up to the present, at least I have found. And then it can start to be true. I mean, anything that you concentrate on for a while will eventually start to happen in your life, including negativity. So to me, eradicating negativity, which is a powerful voice, is essential to any kind of creative process.
Yeah, and you said something really interesting. You said something along the lines of accept it gently, which is kind of a different approach. Just kind of acknowledge that it's there, allow it to be a process, and then you handle it in a calm and systematic way. Yeah, Jake, what was one of your key takeaways?
I always have a couple, and this is one of my favorites actually. But Larry brought up something really important there that I thought bared mentioning again. He called it a cycle, right? That we'll get into that cycle, that the gremlin will show up, we'll go back to point A, we'll travel along, gremlin will show up, back to point A we go again. And we'll allow ourselves in a cycle. And how do we break it? We break it by looking at it. So from a coaching perspective, that's where that comes in our conversations. And that's some of the advantage of, being a coach. We get to see it sooner. And Larry can point it out too. And it's the look at it and have a conversation with it, talk to it gently and go, really, is this really how it's going to be? Is that, what's the conversation here, and start to unpack it. And I thought that was really great. One of my favorite things that this brings up, it's a Henry Ford quote. And it was in the beginning of the video of, whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right.
So Larry, let me get specific here. So what's an example of when this voice has really come up and gotten in your way in the past? How did it manifest itself?
You have to understand, being an actor, we are constantly told no. I mean, many times my life and my future is out of my hands because my life is based on rejection, essentially. I'm always putting it out there. In the old days, to send out resumes or, our headshots, and you just even get an audition to get an agent, to get an opportunity is extremely hard just to get the door open. I got very close to this Netflix series, and they had me on hold. This was a couple months ago, and I was like, finally, I can get something big out of this stupid pandemic, because we're not auditioning in person. And they keep you on hold. Then they call you and they go, clearing your dates. Are you still open? You're like, okay, I think I'm pretty close to this thing. And it was a large role. And then it just disappeared. And they didn't call me. And that happens a lot. And then you call your agent, you go, am I still on hold for this thing? She goes, I don't think so. And you just have to let that go. You just have to go, at least if you want to survive in the entertainment business, you just have to say, I did my job. I showed up. I did a great tape. I sent it in. The casting director was impressed, and they had me in consideration, and I have to take that as a win. Mm-hmm. Right. If I don't take that as a win, if I take it like, God, I'm never going to book anything again. If I even begin to get on that hill, I'm going to slide down that hill, and that affects everything. It's a domino effect. And before you know it, I'm eating a bag of potato chips in front of the TV, and I'm just like, it's like, oh, poor me. So, right. So I really have to watch it. And like I said, we're in the creative field, we have to really learn to deal with these negative voices constantly.
How do you handle that voice? How do you separate that negative voice from, okay, here's the systematic way I need to approach this to move on to my next thing?
Well, because I think it's because of time and maturity, and I've been in the business long enough to see not to take these decisions personally, and to realize it is just a business. Because many times my voice, what I think is the reason why I'm not getting into projects is 100% wrong. And that has been proven time and time again. I could probably talk. I teach on Monday nights, and I tell my students often, I've made a career out of being third choice. And I know I've been the third choice on some big things. So a lot of times it's come down to, I can't get the guy I want. No, let's get Larry Clarke. And then I get the role, and it's this big thing, but I was not the guy. And that's happened time and time again. Even once I auditioned for this role in Shameless, and I thought it was really good. And I knew the writer, and not that really would help, because they have to like you. The top guys have to like you. And he called me and he goes, you're not getting it. And I go, oh, are you kidding me? He goes, yeah, they're going to use this other guy. And I go, all right, well, just keep me in mind for another episode. He goes, okay. And then the next morning he goes, how quick can you get to the studio? And I said, what's going on? He goes, that guy that they cast, he was already on another TV show. He didn't tell us. He's shooting that morning. He's on a guest star on another show. Can you get here in 20 minutes? So I jumped in the car, and they threw a suit on me. And within a half an hour, I was in front of the camera looking at my lines going, but if I had lived in shame after that audition and how, oh, I can't, it's never going to work. I got so close again. When is this, if I went down that negative process, what would, you're not going to survive long in this business if you live with that negative gremlin in your head, like you said in your video. And I was listening to a friend the other day who told me about how a friend of his, a very close friend of his, sabotaged his career. He had an audition for a TV show. He did very well. He thought he didn't. He walked away, and it was a major role on an NBC show. He walked away and he went and got high. Because he thought it went so poorly. They called him back within the hour, and then he went back in and tanked it. And because he was high, he never got the show, and it ruined his career. That did ruin his career because he never could kick out of how close he got to be. It was like a Jerry Seinfeld level kind of a booking. It was a big deal.
Right.
And he completely shot himself in the foot. So, man, it's like there's a lot of stories like that out here. It's a tough business.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting insight. How he allowed himself to go down the rabbit hole, like we're talking minutes or hours here, and that's just crazy. What incredible pivotal example of if he had just said, you know what, I'm just going to chill for a minute, he would have been fine. Would have been a life changer for him. And now there's that slippery slope. He's
not an actor anymore either.
Yeah.
Wow. It really broke his heart.
That's really tough. So Jake, let's go into yours. What's your insidious inner voice, and how do you deal with it?
Yeah, I mean, this could be one of those stories like, so there I was kind of moment, right? But it's not. It's the voice. Once you're attuned to it, you hear it a lot more than you think you do. So I heard it this morning as a great example. I've got some stuff on my plate that we are excited about. It's going to be very, very cool. And I'm catching some external flack from some other people that are not as excited about it as I am, right? So that external force gave a little bit of fuel to that little bastard, right? That little drunk monkey. And there he is. And this morning I heard him. And it was one of those questions of, are we really doing the right thing? Are we doing it for the right reasons? It was subtle. Right. Super, super subtle, but it was called doubt.
The real problem that I've had is my own self-confidence with myself. Mm-hmm. And it's when I'm not around people, when it's just me staring at a screen or being alone in a room. That's been my main problem in life. And I should say has been a hindrance in my career and has made me who I am as well. But dealing with that voice when I'm alone. So I've actually had tremendous success when it comes to, performance and plays and acting. But I really got shot in the foot when I went to New York and I drank too much. Mm-hmm. I started partying way too hard. I was a professional actor in Baltimore City, our home state. And I was drinking every night with all these New York actors, and I loved it. And I treated every night like it was a party. And oh my God, I got into so much trouble. I can't believe. I mean, I even missed a couple entrances the next day because I was hungover. And I remember a couple of people looking at me like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm just having a good time." Every single day. I didn't know how to balance my personal life. Like I just, when it came to drinking and partying, man, I just wanted to party every night. And you're just not going to survive. You're not going to do well in life if you succumb to your addictions.
What was it that you were hiding from? What was it that you were covering up during that time?
But I think that it was a lack of parenting at an early age in a large Irish Catholic family with a lot of drama. You hinted at it in your initial video, Peter, with the gremlin, is that you can't get rid of the gremlin. You have to. There's 3 A's. You have to have awareness, okay, of whatever the problem is. You need awareness. Awareness first, not a knife to cut it out of you, not a person, not stoning that part of yourself, that negative. No, you accept the gremlin. Awareness, then you accept it. You just say, you're there, and I'm going to have to come to terms with you. And then the third one is you can take an action. So they call it the 3 A's. And I have found that to be profound in my life. So once I stopped beating myself up, that was the beginning of change. The Chinese think of addiction as a dragon in the stomach, in the center of you. And that the more you give into the addiction and the negative process, whatever that is, you feed the dragon. They said, once you stop feeding the dragon, he says the dragon will use all its power to be fed. He says, but if you don't feed it long enough, he says the dragon eventually stops and gives you its power. And that always made a lot of sense to me, especially when you're trying to recover from an addiction.
You know, it's to Larry's point, right? He makes the absolute point that it's always there, always there. We're not going to get rid of it. It is part of us. And again, it's how we feed it. It's how we treat it. It's how we communicate with it. One of the things that we have talked about a lot, and I'll tell you a little bit of mine too, is I actually believe there's a 4th A in that 3A conversation, and the 4th A is accountability. Yes. And to your conversation, you know, and it's something we don't talk about, but in a lot of those recovery programs, there is accountability, right? There's a group, there's a community, whatever those are, and there's accountability. But the accountability can't be a stick. The accountability is, you know, if we were going to have the conversation, I would be asking, you know, Larry, okay, well, what do you need today? What door do you need open? What resource do you need? The accountability of community with those other people that are in a similar place. So the voice is always with me. And I know, for me personally, I'm aware that the voice gets louder, and I don't know exactly where it is. We were having this conversation this morning. There's a finite amount of things that my brain can tolerate of, you know, all the stuff that I'm doing. There's like, I don't know exactly where it is. It's 10 or 12 things. I'm not sure, but like, I'm pretty happy and things are going really good. And I don't hear the voice at about 9, but at the 13th thing, he kicks that door open, and that's when like the growly just starts. And I know for me, it's a volume of stuff, and it's various stuff. It can be anything. So right now we're in the process of doing a flip on a house. We are selling a house. We are buying a house. We are moving. I have a coaching practice we're launching. We have some other stuff that we're doing. There's a lot of things. And I noticed this week that I have one too many things in that list, because that's where it started. I got up and it just had that.
Is that a negative voice, or is that your common sense voice saying, you know what, you're at your tipping point right now?
Isn't he the same person?
Well, I don't know.
I would love to say it's common sense. Common sense told me last week to make sure I hooked the second cable.
Yeah.
Right? And that we were safe going up the side of the mountain. Common sense operated that. The gremlin didn't go, do you want to jump? Right. That wasn't the thing that I heard, but the gremlin shows up.
The gremlin said, oh my God, you're going to fall. Stop. You're going to fall.
Yeah.
That was the
gremlin.
Gremlin.
But exactly right. There's a perfect analogy, right? The gremlin is the fear. Like, ooh, that's not good. That's not good. Don't do it. You know, or it's the addiction guy of, you know what, it'd be okay if you had a drink today, and you know, when you get home, because you have that conversation. So that's that gremlin. The common sense is what's real, what's true, what's really true right now. And the gremlin, I believe, speaks of the future, stuff we don't know is true. And it's that thing that builds the stories that we just create out of nothing.
And I like that simple line that you just drew between the story you're telling yourself and the truth. And that's another way to look at the whole thing. So Larry, I'm going to ask you one more thing. What was something you got out of this that you did not expect today, either from the conversation or from the video itself?
I didn't know we'd be talking about addiction, but I think that I'm glad that, because recovery has been a big part of my life. And when I teach, it's what I talk about. So I was a little surprised that I veered into that. But I'm glad that I did. And because I think that what I think is really powerful about these conversations that you're starting is that they put them in a clear, palatable approach that can be dealt with in I don't want to say oversimplified, but it's almost like your cartoons. It's like, and I think when you put them into a bite-sized, when you use your bite-sized approach, this metaphor, I think it's very healing and positive because you don't get overwhelmed. And I love this about how we approach these ideas today, is that these aren't overwhelming conversations, that we stayed positive and we dealt with them in a bite-sized manner. Do you like how I take it right back to that at the end?
Absolutely. Yes. You can be my promotional person anytime. No, I appreciate that. Thank you. And yeah, I didn't expect it to go there either, but it was relevant and it made sense. And now it's no longer the elephant in the room, which is awesome. Jake, what was a takeaway that you did not expect?
I love where the conversation went, because we always get a little bit creative.
I call it off the rails.
Yeah, exactly. It's off the rails. We might just change the title to Off the Rails. But it's poignant. We stayed on point the entire time. One of my favorite things that I thought about today that I had not considered, and I'm so grateful for Larry for bringing it up, is the creative side to the business side, right? It is coming to the creatives for their opinion because there is a voice. And that in the same aspect, that means creativity has a voice in your business. It doesn't have to be strictly models, because at some point in your world, you had to be creative to do it.
And one thing that I was impressed with your life, Peter, because I've seen you your entire life. And I was with you when he's a great actor. A lot of people don't know this, but I acted with him a lot in college. And he came out here to LA to be an actor. And then it was comedy, and that you went into writing, but you were always proactive. You always were like, I'm not going to sit here and wait for this business to like discover me. You were always taking the next positive step, and you've done that in your entire life. And I was always watching you going, wow, how does Peter do that? Because what did I do? I would get no's and rejections, and I would work in restaurants. And I would just sit around, smoking a cigarette, staring at a dumpster.
Thank you for that. It's so funny because I look at you and I'm like, hey, Larry's stuck with acting. I wonder what would happen if I stuck with acting. So yeah, it's interesting, the conversations we have around each other. Absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much for being on the panel today. If you like what you saw, don't forget to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe to this channel. We'll be back again next time to look at the many paths towards getting there and how the journey is as important as the destination. Also, if you'd like to talk to me one-to-one about your business and where you want to take it next, click the link below and we can set up a time. Thank you guys so much. This was great.
Thank you.
Yeah, totally.
Thanks, Jake. It was nice meeting you.
As well, Larry.
Personal realm.
I wouldn't say it was off the rails. I would say that it was on its own rails.
Yeah. No, it had some really good direction.
Because Larry's a conductor, so I know he's always going to take the train somewhere.